For a long time, we had the collective imperialism or American empire, you name it, whatever you like, but there was this group of undoubtedly most important countries in the world, known as the G8, and no doubt the Americans played a special role in that. They were the leader of the pack. Hits the 2008 crisis, without much discussion, we are moving from the G8 to the G20. And leading Chinese politicians, Chinese central bankers can talk about replacing the US dollar as the major currency of the world. Well, some might remember when Saddam Hussein, an admittedly not very sympathetic person and one-time ally of the United States of America, when he thought to do his oil trade in euros instead of US dollars, he didn't survive that for very long, right? He was bombed. The Chinese can dare to say maybe there's something wrong with the US dollar. So that actually looks quite promising. Obviously, the world learned to communicate about its crisis in its endeavor to figure out what to do. There was a time when the euro was planned that Americans got very nervous whether the Europeans might actually develop ambitions taking over the role as leader of the pack. Well, being from Europe, I can tell you there never was such ambitions. Europeans are good friends of Uncle Sam and are determined to remain so. So the Americans are always suspicious, and the last suspicion they had, obviously, is about China. Will China maybe at some point want more than just replacing the US dollar in its leading role in financial markets? You never know. In the 90s, we were used to see financial crisis all over the world, just not in the centers of the capitalist system. So why would we as citizens of the center care about it? And the same with war. Sometimes you demonstrate against wars in Afghanistan, you demonstrate against wars in Iraq, but by the end of the day, it really doesn't make a difference because it's so far away. It's other people dying, it's not us. But maybe that's going to change. Who knows? Is the worst still to come? Well, obviously, I don't know. In the 30s, it was all about the labor movement, whether it was acknowledged or not. Even the worst enemy of labor movements, known as German fascism, had to dress up in the name of National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. Even they had to make reference to the potential power of labor movements. Well, obviously in Russia the whole revolution happened in the name of workers, although there weren't too many in that country. And today there isn't very much. Actually, this showcase of social democracy had its beginning in 1938. That was the year the British said, "We don't mind if you Nazis move into Czechoslovakia." In Sweden, a class compromise was reached between the capitalists and the workers. That was a prototype of a welfare state. Of course, if your neighbors are all either Nazis or occupied by Nazis, you're a bit cautious saying that you talk to social democrats and union guys all of the time. But it should not be forgotten that the root of the welfare state lies in Sweden, 1938. Obviously, I'm advocating the old-fashioned idea that the 30s were openly about class struggle. And this was the case since beginning in the mid-19th century, workers had to organize in all industrializing capitalist countries as independent, autonomous labor movements. Whether you were a social democrat, a communist, an anarchist, whether you believed in God or not, whatever your mother tongue would be, you were a worker. And this is most prominently pointed, or was prominently pointed out at in the early days of that development by two fellows Marx and Engels, who wrote a prominent manifesto in 1848, and there they famously stated, workers have no country. And for a long time, workers had no country. One of the results of the 30s, though, was that workers were given a country. And one of the cases where you can see that very clearly is the CIO union guys, full with class consciousness, very militant, putting on a uniform, fighting fascism, not in the name of the workers of the world, but in the name of Canada first, America first. And the same happened in the name of other countries. It was all in the name of states. And after the Second World War, kind of the nationalization of labor movements was taken even further. In Eastern Europe, power of workers was all about the state. State and workers were kind of identified with each other. It was state socialism. In the West, we had the welfare state. The idea of independent, autonomous labor movements had largely been gone, and you might consider me just a guy who doesn't get over the failures of past labor movements. But I want to end on a very optimistic note. In 1998, that was the 150th anniversary of the publication of the Communist Manifesto. There's good reason to explore the politics of Marx and Engels and move towards any attempt possible to rebuild independent labor movements. And you might ask me, is he in the wrong conference? Is he thinking he's addressing a union convention? I would tell a union convention very much the same thing, but I'm also telling peace activists without a strong labor movement, there isn't much hope. But I do have the hope that we can build a strong labor and peace movement. Thank you very much.